Hi there, welcome to Lilly-Tree. Today we're going to make this quick wire wrap pendant. So let's get wrapping. The materials we're using for this are 1mm diameter copper wire, which is 18 gauge, 0.4mm diameter copper wire, which is 26 gauge, 2 beads, one 8mm and one 4mm, although you could use just one bead, or perhaps a drop-shaped bead, or even a rice bead, but just make sure whatever you're using it'll fit onto the 1mm 18 gauge wire. 3 2mm diameter copper beads, and a jump ring for hanging. And the tools we need are round nose pliers, chain or flat nose pliers, wire cutters, a hammer and block, and a file. We're going to start with 10 cm or 4 inches of that 1mm 18 gauge wire. And we'll use our round nose pliers to create about half a loop in one end. And then continue forming this into a spiral. We're just going to get a rough shape right now, we can finesse it later. But I'm going to take that right the way round and then have it touching the spiral. And that tail, from where it touches, we want to be about 1 inch or 2.5 centimetres. Now we can spend a bit of time finessing that spiral and getting it to just the shape that we want. And I'm just going to curve that tail slightly as well. Now we want to hammer over this entire shape. I'm using a raising hammer here, but you could use whatever hammer you've got. The main reason for this hammering is to work hard on the wire so that it will stay in shape. But I'm also going to flatten the wire slightly, partly for design purposes, and partly because it will help to hold the accent beads in place later. We don't want to go too far with this though, as the beads still need to fit onto the wire. Now that's got it about as flat as I want it to go, so we could leave it like this. But for an extra bit of design, I'm just going to create a hammered finish on that wire by using the ball end of my hammer. So that's created the frame, and we're now ready to start wire wrapping. For the wire wrapping, we need a piece of the 0.4mm 26 gauge wire. This piece is a little long, we only need about 30 centimetres or 12 inches. And we're going to start by wrapping it 3 times on that inner curve of the spiral. We can use the short tail of the end for this. Then we can take the weaving end down to the back . Make sure those wraps are nice and tight together, and then move it so those wraps sit just above where the 2 frame wires meet. We're then going to wrap both of those wires twice. Take the weaving wire up between them. Make sure those wraps all stay tightly together. And then we'll wrap that inner curve of the spiral twice. Then we'll wrap both wires twice again. And just that inner wire twice. I'll do this one more time so we've got 3 sets of those double wraps. Then we're going to wrap both of those wires twice, one last time. But this time we'll come across and wrap just that outer wire a few times. Then we can use a chain or flat nose pliers on those wraps just to settle them in place. We don't need that starting end anymore, so we can snip that off. And just make sure the end's nice and flush with the frame wire. Now we're ready to add the beads. So we're going to thread those larger beads onto the pendant. And I want them to sit around about there. So to stop them coming off, we need to hammer the end of that wire. We can move those beads up the pendant so they're out of the way and just hammer the very end of the wire. And I've switched to my riveting hammer for this, just because it's small so I can see exactly where I'm hammering. Now this hammering will just splay the end of that wire out, so it acts as a stopper and the beads don't slide off the end. But it can create some sharp burrs on the end of that wire, so we're just going to gently file them off so it's nice and smooth, without narrowing the wire back down again. And that should hold those beads nicely. Now we're ready to add those accent beads. So we're going to take the weaving wire and just create a small curve where it's coming around. Thread on one of our 2mm beads. And sit it on the inside of that curve. Then we want to hold it in place and continue wrapping in the same direction as we were before. And as it comes over for the third wrap, make another small curve in the wire and add the next bead. Then we'll do exactly the same again. Hold it in place whilst we make those wraps and add the final bead. And those little curves that we're making in the wire just help the beads sit in place. And after that final bead, we can just put whatever extra wraps we need to hold those large beads in place. I only need one more wrap there. We can clamp over those wires gently with our chain or flat nose pliers just to settle them in place. And then trim the end of the wire and make sure it's sitting flush to the frame. Then we just need to add a jump ring to the top to hang it from the chain. And we can leave it as bright copper, or as I'm going to do, patina with liver of sulphur. And our pendant is finished. If you enjoyed this video, why not head to this playlist for more quick wire wrap pendant tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.